Hey, everybody, welcome to Cruise Control, your on air automotive magazine. We are here again. It's going to be a great show. Terrific things going on. I'm Les Jackson. You're going to hear Fred Staab in a second. There he is. And Fred, what do you think? You think, forgetting tariffs, we're going to talk about some German cars, starting with Mercedes. They
Yeah,
just revealed the CLA, right?
yes. They call it the most emotional, efficient, intuitive, intelligent Mercedes
That's what they
ever.
call me. That's
um, I think that's a new height of PR
that,
speak.
I give yeah, I'll give them that's it. They win. That's terrific. And BMW says get the sponge. They're ready to absorb some tariffs. Well, I guess they're going to have to.
Yeah, it's interesting. Will this spread across the automotive industry, or
Hmm.
is this just a temporary thing? I believe they said they can only do it for a couple of months, but we'll see. We'll see, and we'll kick that one around, won't we? And then, why
Yeah.
are insurers totaling more new cars and trucks? We'll tell you why, and it's not not anything that's going to change anytime soon.
It's not going to change soon, and this is great. We love this guy, Ford's heritage and brand manager, Ted Ryan. He's back with us later on in the show with the story of the Ford Heritage Fleet. You're going to love this. And learning from the past helps build a better future, he says, and it has a lot to do with inspiring designers.
Yes, yeah. So it's interesting. They went through a lot of hoops to get these vehicles all in one place. We'll talk to Ted about it, and really, it is quite the display of some great vehicles from the heritage
Yeah.
collection of Ford. And you and I always thought that most manufacturers kind of built, whatever they built, they kept one of, but it's not. That's not the case.
No, we really did think that, but
Yeah, yeah.
nope.
Well, let's jump into our first story here, and that has to do with Mercedes. The Mercedes CLA, that is the most affordable Mercedes. And this one is going to start off as an electric vehicle, all electric vehicle. You can get it in either a rear drive model or you can get it in an all wheel drive model. What's interesting about this one, Les, is Mercedes has decided to go with a two-speed transmission. Uh, that's not
Hmm,
normal. The normal thing for an electric car. Normally, they
that's
don't
not.
have a transmission. They're like a golf cart, basically. They just have one speed. One. There's no gear changes. So this is kind of a trend. I think maybe we'll see it across other manufacturers. They say it makes it much more efficient use of power.
Well, it probably does because electric motors tend to be single speed. Well, they tend to they tend to max out at around 3,400 RPM. Maybe this is a better way to go.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, as I said, the base model is a 268 horsepower rear drive model, motor on the rear. And then you can step up to the CLA 354 Matic, which adds another 107 horsepower, I believe, to the motor in the front, which will disconnect. So you only trigger that motor when you want more acceleration, which I believe will do 0 to 16 4.5. And I believe the rear
Yeah,
motor is 6.5, if I recall correctly. Um, they all get an 85 kilowatt hour battery. And there's a new for this vehicle 800-volt electric architecture for charging. So up to 300 kilowatts per hour are possible, which is pretty
yeah.
interesting stuff.
Well, everything about it, I will say, they have packed a tremendous amount of technology and features into this car. Um, they're Mercedes is never afraid to do that. I always worry about what happens when it's got a few years on it and stuff it might start breaking. I
Yeah.
just always worry about that. But
Well, this is entry level, and I believe the pricing is in about the $60,000 range. So that is the new entry level for
that's yeah. Well,
electric vehicles.
just what happened to $25,000? Well,
Well, the interesting thing that's happening here is, and probably is a new development, the CLA is all electric to start, but then in about a year or so, they're going to have a hybrid model. It will not be a plug in hybrid, it will just be a regular hybrid model. And that will be coming along. So
yeah.
both of these, all of these CLAs are built on the new MMA platform, which will be used across the Mercedes lineup. Pretty good looking vehicle, I think. It does have that option for the passenger screen, so it's all about
Hmm.
screens. I've never been a big fan of that, but Mercedes is for sure, right?
Well, but that's yeah. I've never particularly been a fan of it either. But I don't know. Maybe it's a generational thing. The one of the big things that's going on with Mercedes is their green charging, which
Hmm.
they call their initiative, renewable energy green charging, and
Okay.
this is really part of the unveil not the unveiling, but the introduction of the CLA.
Hmm.
You can get these green electricity certificates
Okay.
from certified generation plants. They're purchased and canceled in the same country where the customer charges. It's kind of nice, and they have what they call intelligent home charging solutions.
Okay.
So they're really going all out.
The other thing that's interesting about this is they've integrated the Mercedes logo into the taillights and into the daytime running lights. And of course, it also has, which I like the trend of a lit up Mercedes ornament on the grill, and I think that's a trend. I saw that last week in the ID Buzz from Volkswagen, and I think it's kind of cool. I think that
I
is kind
like,
of cool.
yeah, I like the idea. It's first the grill or whatever's in the front is the face of the car,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the idea of lighting up the face.
Yeah.
Um, it's the personality, it's the car. And by the way, in their words, it is gorgeous, effortless, intuitive, and flexible.
that's that's how they describe us, isn't it? That's
That
amazing.
exactly. They took it from our press release.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Well, it also is very emotional, the car, apparently, according to the press
Apparently,
release. And
apparently.
I kind of went through everything, and basically, it has the equivalent of a dashboard that is like a mood ring. Remember mood rings?
I remember them quite well.
Okay, well, it listens to how you're talking, or perhaps even how you're driving, and it will change the color of the dash to suit your mood. Now, I don't know whether it tries to calm you down if you're like, oh, I gotta get out of here, and you're really pushing the accelerator,
Hmm.
or pounding on the steering wheel. Does it change to blue tones and start playing spa music, or does or does it say like, yeah, let's go, and it turns the whole thing red inside? I kind of
Yeah,
find this stuff gimmicky, Les Jackson.
I do too. I just want to drive the car. I want to be comfortable. I don't want the dashboard to reflect my mood.
Yes.
Perhaps I'm in a playful mood.
Well, you know what I like? My pet peeve is I just had a vehicle and all of a sudden it decides, oh, we have to give you a back massage while you're driving along,
Oh,
and that you can't, it's hard to turn it off. It's like the seat goes into massage mode.
That's interesting on its own.
On its own. It said
Wow.
lumbar support mode enabled, or triggered
Hmm.
or turning on. I was like, I think my lumbar is supported. I'm okay with that.
I do like the massaging seats, but when I want them.
When I want them. Exactly. When I want them.
Yeah.
So it seems
Well, I mean,
intrusive.
my fear is what if it turns the heated seat on
Well,
when you don't want it?
okay. Yeah, you seem cold. I'll turn the
That's right.
heated
But
seat
I'm
on.
not cold.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all right. Well, that is a little bit about the CLA. I'm sure we'll talk more about it. That is the entry level Mercedes, believe it or not, and we're talking it goes for $60,000
Ah,
as the electric version. We don't know what the hybrid version will go for, but hopefully a little bit less. But it is interesting vehicle. I think I liked the design of it outside. The one of the things people criticized the old CLA for was the lack of rear leg room. They've extended the chassis of this on the MMA chassis by 2.4 inches, and in order to raise up the floor for the battery, they've raised up the roof line a little bit. So it should mean more leg room, more headroom out
yeah.
back, which I think is good for a
It's
lot of people.
good. It's funny. I'm trying to think of in all the years I've driven cars and tested vehicles, the number of times I've had people in the rear seats and thought and wondered, do they have good leg room? I don't think I've ever cared if they have
I know
good.
you said you don't care about heated seats in the back and
No,
riding with Les Jackson. It could
I
be a
mean, I
little.
don't. I'm the days of having passengers in your rear seat on a trip are pretty well gone.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. Well,
maybe I just don't like people. So,
this is for another show, probably
I
not
no,
cruise
that's right.
control.
But the fact is, I mean, legroom is great, but and frankly, I almost never get ridden around by someone else,
No,
so I don't even get to test legroom.
well,
So
I've been known to sit up front with drivers because I don't like sitting in the
yeah,
back. I'd rather sit up front.
same here.
Let's
Anyway,
talk about completely talking about two-speed transmissions. Let's make a gear change here. Announced this week BMW to absorb tariffs on Mexican made cars. Now, you're like, what do they make in Mexico? They make the 2 Series Coupe, the M2, and the 3 Series sedan. And they're going to hold off passing this on to consumers, at least initially. They're calling it a price protect plan and will last
hmm.
at least till May Day, May 1st.
And I have no idea how many of these they make every month,
Right.
but however many they make, they obviously are selling here, mostly here. This is great that they're going to do this. I guess the fallback plan is, or maybe they feel that the tariff won't last very long. I don't believe it will either. But yeah, so it's a 25% coming from Mexico.
Well, for example, a 230i coupe starts at around 39,600. If you add a 25% tariff, that would add almost $10,000 to
Yeah,
the
that's a
price.
lot of money.
So that means you step up to the next 3 series, and that would be around 45,950, and that tariff would be almost 11,500. That's
Yeah.
serious chips.
Yeah, I mean this is this is not
It's real money.
sustainable. This just isn't sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah. So um,
Um,
we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll see how it all shakes out. But it could be telling that they're going to absorb it till May 1st. Will other automakers follow? Will we see domestic makers follow? Of course,
That
Ford builds the Maverick down there. Chevy
absolutely.
builds a lot of Silverados down there. Ram builds its heavy duty 2500 series down there, and more and
Well,
more.
also,
Equinox EV from Chevy built in Mexico.
I
Wow.
was uh, I was talking with some industry folks this week, and I hadn't thought of it until they reminded me of it that even if they're building them here, um, the components are coming from Mexico and some from Europe. ZF transmissions,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to pay a tariff on that, and then if some minimum or um, not yet installed in the vehicle component then has to go to Canada to be
Mm.
fitted with something, there's a tariff on that.
Yes.
So it's quite possible to have a an F-150 that's built here end up with $12,000 in tariffs on it
Yes.
because various components. Well, this is
And
just crazy.
it was a bit of a surprise to hear that some people do that. They cast something in Mexico, they send it up to Canada to be
Yeah,
have further machining, and then they send it back down to Mexico to have it installed. I mean, it you do wonder, is that efficient? I don't know.
I guess it is. They wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't.
Yeah, it's good for truckers and railroad companies.
Yeah, it's great for the truck for the truckers.
We'll just haul it all
Yeah.
back and forth. But I don't know. We'll ask our audience. Do you think we'll see other manufacturers absorb these tariffs? Should they stay on? We don't know, but will they absorb these or will they pass it along? Eventually, they can't do it forever. I mean,
No.
eventually they'll have to pass it along, or something will happen. So we'll see. Uh,
And and I forget what the 200% tariff is. Oh, champagne and other.
yeah, that
Uh,
would pretty much shut
wow.
whatever that was down because you're not going to
Yeah.
triple the price of it, and people gonna still keep buying it. I don't know. But let's
Mm.
talk about insurance. And for insurers, according to this LexisNexis study, a report from Axios is based on LexisNexis data. In 2018, 19% of crashed vehicles were deemed a write off by insurance companies, total. By
Mm.
2023, the percentage rose to 27% and is expected to jump another 5% during 2025. And they say this trend will likely continue. Now, you and I talked about a little bit. You think about this. How do they work? When do they decide what percentage money, damage do they decide to total a vehicle? Do you know? I'm not sure.
I do. My friend, we should have him on the show. My friend Vic,
Mm-hmm.
actually, his nickname is Spud. He retired. He owned an insurance company
Okay.
that did both home and cars and life insurance. And he was explaining to me that the simplest explanation is that when their or your um, estimators look the vehicle over, they have charts and books that say how much these components will cost and how many hours of labor it'll be. And when it approaches the value of the car, then they just total it.
Mm-hmm.
And and it approaches the value of the car dramatically quickly,
Yes.
really quickly.
But it's not
Uh,
the full value of the car. It's a certain percentage. Like if you say,
yeah,
well, that's
yeah,
20% of the value of the car, then we're not going to, if it goes over that, we're not going to fix it, right?
that's right. It really, it's not it's not like it's a diabolical thing. It's just
No,
a
no,
pure
it's kind of a logical thing. Like
practical. Yeah,
Yeah, if you had
but
something
you
and you,
know, if you have an SUV with a big tailgate, that tailgate's about a $4,000 replacement.
well, for instance, I had a neighbor who has a BMW X3, and he came out of he parked it safely, and a bus had hit it. He feels a bus hit it, and
Hmm.
I said, "Wow, it's lucky they didn't take out your tail light, your headlight. That could be like $3,000 just to get that
Yeah,
unit." And he went and he said, "What?" And he went and got an estimate. And the guy said, "It's lucky they didn't hit your headlight. That could be like $3,000." So, and you think of
yeah,
the tail lights on the F-150, they're like $4,000 because they got
four
sensors in them.
thousand
And
dollars. Yeah,
so, if someone hits you in the back and breaks both your tail lights, takes out your rear bumper and your tailgate, which is completely possible. If like a truck hits you, that could be it,
that's
right?
it, right. And if you have an EV and the monocoque is in any way warped or bent, that's it. Even though it's you can't even see it.
Right.
Um, Too bad it's totaled.
Well, somebody has
So
a nice electric drivetrain to put in something.
yeah, yeah. Take the parts.
Yeah. So it can happen rather quickly, and I think at some point, some people, even some like the Rivians and things like that, they say it's just too expensive to repair it, and some of the damage doesn't look that high at all. And then you get into a situation like Fisker where they couldn't get the parts. So, somebody opened their door and they
Yeah,
dented something, and it wasn't that big. You could still drive the vehicle, but they would total it because they can't get the parts, which is sad because I'd probably just drive it that way or try to fix it somehow myself. But um, it's kind of shocking. It really is. And you wonder too, are some of these things so complex? Maybe they are not worth fixing because it won't ever be right.
well, that's one of the things they talk about. Bumpers with all these sensors all over them.
Mm-hmm.
That gets extremely expensive, not only to replace the censored bumper, but also to get everything set up and tested and worked. Lots and lots of shop time, and it just becomes prohibitively expensive. And then there are those 19-inch, 20-inch, 22-inch wheels.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah,
Or windshields with heated that are heated and sensors built into them.
that's right. Or the acoustic glass.
Yeah,
Wow. I mean, this stuff is wonderful to
yeah,
have. Just don't get hit.
yeah.
It,
Don't get hit. And you look at the front bumper now, as you said, they're loaded with sensors, radar
oh
sensors,
boy.
all kinds of things. Those radar sensors are right out front, and they're going to get crushed. Later on, we're going to do some look at some IIHS results, and when you see those vehicles hit, the front like just shatters into dust. So
It
those
does.
sensors are
I
not.
That's right. And I'll be there on the 24th of April, and
Don't let them use your
I'll
car,
be
Les. If they say, "Can we
I'll
borrow your
be
car?"
videoing it. Not my car,
No.
but I'll be videoing a crash and enjoying every minute of it because
Hmm.
because it's very exciting.
It is. It
Um,
is, and
and you learn a lot.
yeah, you do learn a lot, and they've done a lot. People might say, "Oh, well, they made cars more expensive," but if you're in a bad crash,
I
wouldn't you rather survive and not, have slight injuries than have something
uh,
life changing?
and that makes me bring up a question for you, Fred, and for anyone who wants to respond, and that is, as the vehicles get so expensive to insure and to fix, and our crash statistics are dreadful. Um, is it about time that the insurance industry forces school systems and the states to make people take more advanced driver training?
That's always been a thought. I mean, you look at Europe, and it's some countries it's
Fin-
like a year-long process to get your
Finland,
license.
Finland, greatest drivers in the world, and they are safest drivers in the world because they get 40 hours of classroom and 40 hours of in vehicle training, learning everything, including J turns and power slides and all of this stuff that anybody
Sounds
that's been on
sounds
a
fun.
racetrack knows. It is fun, but it also
The
teaches you
Finnish flick, the Finland
the
flick.
fin the Finnish flick. They learn it. So you become a good driver. You have situational awareness. You just are less likely to get into a crash.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
I
also
don't know.
think take it seriously, more seriously. Like I know I watch people driving, right? Because I like being in the moment of driving. I enjoy
Yeah,
driving as you do. People seem to have trouble staying in their lane. They seem to
they
have
sure do.
trouble tracking their vehicle. And later on, we'll talk about some of these small overlap crashes, how they've integrated that into the testing. There are a lot of people that move out of their lane. They're coming towards you, and for whatever
Hmm.
reason, they're looking at the phone, or maybe they're just not good at tracking their car around a turn, and they're like, "This guy's half over my lane." And that's how a small overlap crash happens, right?
We experience it right here where I live. Our street, Seminary Road, is a gentle, gentle curve over about 3/4 of a mile. You can hardly tell it's curved, but it's enough that people lose their lane
Mm-hmm.
because they're not paying attention. And they have, in the past 12 months, they have knocked down 4 light poles,
That's really
utility
losing your
poles.
lane
4.
if you're up on the sidewalk hitting
Yeah,
a pole.
yeah. I mean, this is, and I'm on a committee with the city to figure out how to solve this. I know how to solve it, but I don't. I don't think they want that approach. But
No, no.
yeah,
Hey,
but this is crazy. Anyway,
you, anyway, let's completely shift gears and let's celebrate some heritage here. Ted
it's
Ryan,
great.
who is the brand and heritage manager for Ford, is getting ready to come on with us. Ted, I don't know if you have your ears on, but Ted, are you there?
Oh, hey, there he is.
Yeah, yeah. We don't hear you right now,
I don't hear you.
you might be muted, but we'll let Ted get that. Don't hear you, Ted.
No,
So yeah, we'll let you get that squared away, and I'll check it on my end as well. But he's going to be talking less about the heritage Ford Heritage fleet, right?
that's right. This is a curated collection of nearly 500 vehicles.
I think we got Ted
Uh,
now. Ted, are you there?
there
Yeah,
he is.
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Ah,
that
oh
was
yeah, that's
that
yeah.
was
If you
my
can
bad.
bring Ted down at my end, Fred, that would be great.
That was my bad there, Ted. I apologize
Yeah.
for that. And Ted, we want to welcome you back to Cruise Control. It's always great having you on, and a great brand manager, heritage manager for Ford, an incredible job. And I didn't realize this. You were with Coca-Cola before, and that was a big heritage type deal for you as well, wasn't it?
It was. I was with Coca-Cola for 21 years before I came to Ford, where I helped build the World of Coke historical exhibits, and we did a
Wow.
number of other activations at Coke around the Coca-Cola Santa Claus and Norman Rockwell and the polar bear and the color red in the script. But now I bleed blue, not red,
That's
and
right.
really working for
Of
Ford every
course.
minute.
Yeah, I believe you said that was the only job that would get you to leave Coca-Cola was to come to Ford.
That's
And
the truth.
so tell us about this. I know a little bit about it, and you have sent us some great footage which we're going to play, but Ford Heritage Fleet. Now, Les and I always thought, and probably erroneously, that if you're a manufacturer of vehicles, you keep a lot of them. You keep one of everything you build, which sounds now to me almost impossible. But Ford has kept a lot of their heritage, and just talk a little bit about the idea behind this heritage fleet. What's the purpose of it? other
I
than
will.
looking
Well,
at great cars?
yeah, just to set the stage more accurately, is that Ford in the United States, even since the days of Henry Ford II, had not retained its fleet. We donated a number to the Henry Ford Museum, which are beautifully on display. And we sold off our concept fleet in 2003 for the 100th anniversary of the company. So we had not kept a fleet in the United States. Uh, Anytime I did an activation, I'd have to go borrow cars from collectors, from museums, because we just didn't have them. Conversely, in the United Kingdom, they had a great fleet that was stored at Dagenham that they just moved about 3 years ago to a innovation center in Daventry. And Ford of Germany has one in Cologne, and Ford of Australia had a smaller one in Melbourne, where they had kept their Utes and their Falcon XRs and all those. So about a little bit over a year ago, Jim Farley emailed me. He was in the UK fleet in Daventry, and he said, we need to get this organizing in the United States. We're not doing a good job of protecting our heritage. So for the past year, in secret, I've been, pardon me, reaching out to people to find out where the cars were stored, who had what cars, became the big shell game. Because most of these were either supposed to have been sold or destroyed.
Right.
So the ones that we found were ones that were saved by the passion of the employees who were working on the individual projects.
Car guys and gals coming to the rescue.
100%. My favorite story so far is an email I got from somebody at the famous Rouge plant, the Dearborn truck plant. And once word got out that what we were doing, and we were identifying the cars not as an accountant to then get them off the books, and no, we were getting them identified to save them. So got an email saying that we've got the very last Mustang from the Dearborn assembly and the very first F-150 from Dearborn truck plant from 2004. And the plant managers that had been there hidden secret in an annex off of the glass building, and they were covered with a tarp for 20 years.
Wow.
We found a 10-cylinder Mustang that was a prototype that was supposed to have been destroyed a decade ago, but Ford Performance moved it from place to place to place, one step ahead of the accountants who were looking for where it was. And all in all, we found 175 vehicles in the United States, and it now forms the corpus of our Ford Heritage fleet in the United States, which is part of 500 vehicles around the world.
Did you buy them? Did Ford buy these vehicles?
Nope.
Or they just located them and
located them, and some were donated. We have a 1938 ambulance that was donated to the company. We have a 2000 battery electric Ranger that was donated. But in some cases, guys, it was just a simple matter of bookkeeping. So the Lightning that President Biden drove on an impromptu visit, he wasn't supposed to drive. He talked to Secret Service into letting him do it. And if any of you've driven an electric car, they zip. So he drove that one. Well, that was a test unit. And it was supposed to be destroyed because all test units are destroyed. Right. So it took a little bit of trickery on my part to change the tag from test to fixed asset. Now it's part of the fleet.
Well, wait a minute. Does that mean a production unit was destroyed?
No,
so
those
the accountants.
It's so complex, guys, because you have pre-production, you have test units, you have fixed assets, you have bucks that were used. So, for example, there were 6 bucks that were used in the development of the GT program in 2016. These are cars that drive, but they're testers. They can't ever be sold because they can't be tagged or given a VIN. But they're cars. Yeah. And they tell a great story. They tell the story of the development of the 2016 GT, so it's worth saving. So it's more along the lines of some of the ones like that. Although now we did go into the marketing fleet, and I got one of the first Broncos off the line. Wow. And I got one of the first Corsairs off the line. So we're not going to get every one of every car, but we're selectively picking some. For the Broncos Sport freewheeling package, I got one of those so that we can tell that freewheeling story again in the future.
Well, let's talk about what happened. You gather all these cars, you find them, and then we have some great footage of them. They're being refreshed and looked at and put on trailers, and that must have been a major.
That was our hidden warehouse, guys. That was the warehouse. I won't say where it was, but that's a hidden. Cobra R right there. That's a VIN number 1 Cobra R driving out.
Wow.
And so we were tucking the vehicles away at different warehouses around the Dearborn area, and it wasn't from lack it wasn't malicious to make the cars go away. It was just part of what had always happened. So like the Dearborn truck plant manager, that's my Model T. There you see me pushing it out. The Dearborn truck plant manager, he knew that the last Mustang and the first F-150 were critical, but there was no place for him to go. If he turned them over to the accounting department, they would have been destroyed, because that's what you do to these cars, or they would have been sold. So now that we have a fleet and we created a special tag and we created a special accounting unit, it's going to allow us to keep the creme de la creme.
Wow.
You can see one of the bucks in the background right there, by the way, guys.
I see it on the right-hand side. Yeah.
And you also see it's in snow and exposed to the cold outside. So part of what we did.
This shot drove me crazy, Ted. It looks like that that quarter pounder was going to hit.
That really was close.
This is a sweet sounding car too when they get that one going. So we moved about 50 of them into a central warehouse into a central garage at Ford headquarters, which then gave me room to move the other ones that have been outside and at that warehouse you were just seeing inside. So that buck is now inside. You didn't see it, but there was a line of Shelby, Cobra, King of the Roads that are now inside. So it's going to allow us to care for the fleet in a meaningful way. And I want to make one thing very quick. We're not doing this to create a museum. We're doing this to have a living, breathing fleet that our employees can use. Next week alone, I've got the product development team coming in on Wednesday. We've got multiple groups scheduled to come in over the course of the next month for inspiration, for ideation. And Jim Farley, when he started this thing a year ago, he said, we sell cars for a living, not toothpaste. And if you came to our headquarters now, you'd have a hard time knowing that. So let's let everybody know we sell cars.
So go ahead, Les.
Fred, I'm probably going to ask the same question you are, but so this is basically a museum for Ford employees to use for inspiration, for just learning the history of some of these vehicles. And there's tremendous value in that.
It's not a museum. It's got a museum. It's called the Henry
Ford.
No,
I'm just using the word museum, but it's a
it's a collection of vehicles to give inspiration to Ford employees in the United States and then around the world. And then our goal eventually down the road, that's a sweet RS. Our goal down the road is to make it available as we can to the public as well.
Oh, and are the employees allowed to drive these?
No, and that's once again because of the tagging. Some of them can be driven, some of them can't be driven. The 10-cylinder Mustang isn't the 10 millionth can be driven and can be driven. So the 10-cylinder Mustang isn't tagged to be driven on the open road. So it wouldn't involve going to Romeo test track or other things. So in a way, some of them can be. This was the last Mustang off the line, and it sat under a tarp for 20 years. So it took a lot of cleaning to get that top.
You ought to tell the secret of cleaning a white convertible top.
Yes, I was going to ask you that whatever they were using was doing a good job.
I want to know about it.
Because
that's
normally
Motor City Solutions, and the Motor City Solutions was a great. Oh, there's my 2000 Lightning or my 2000 Ranger battery electric, and pushing in the other cars. Motor City Solutions was a fantastic partner with us on this project to get the cars back into shape and get them moved in. So
now, where are they now? In a parking garage there near the Ford
at
HQ?
World Headquarters. Well, there's 50 vehicles at World Headquarters, and like I said, we're making arrangements for different teams within Ford to come in and take tours. The one caveat on that is it's a working garage, and there's still hundreds of people that drive through that. So you can't have 150 people milling around and cars zipping through. No. So we're working with the building, and we're doing off hours, but we're doing tours for designers coming in. Another group is, I know I had 15 emails in my inbox yesterday asking for tours of the fleet. And that just goes to show you there was a pent up demand at Ford Motor Company to see the classic vehicles that we've made over the years.
Now, You know what's going to happen, Les? That Golf livery GT, some guy's going to come in with a beat up old truck and park right next to
Oh,
it.
yeah, that's where you have to get, just bring out,
Shorting.
And
yeah.
open his
Now,
door into it.
are
No,
there,
I'm only kidding, but that does happen. I never know why that
at,
happens, why people do that.
that's right. At the Ford headquarters itself, the lobby, as it
Mhm.
were, is there space to like bring one of those and put it in the lobby on display for a week at a time, so everyone coming into the building could see it?
That's part of the plan, and that's a good call out. Is that we're going to be able to move 2 a month into the building, and just to paint the picture for everybody of what Ford headquarters is, a vintage 1950s building, big marble foyer,
Hmm.
but there's no cars. There's a reproduction of the quadricycle, and there's a 2013 Model T Torpedo. And
Wow.
those are the only two cars that are in the
Wow.
lobby on a consistent basis. We do have a staging area where we can put a couple of others. So our goal, in fact, this week we had the GTD that was going to run at Daytona, is running
Hmm.
right now, I believe, at Daytona uh, on display. No, we had the one that won recently at Daytona on display. So, but now that it's gone, we'll be able to move 2 of these a month inside, so that just visitors will be able to see some spectacular cars. And we didn't even touch the concepts. We have
Well,
16
you
cars.
are
Yeah,
reading my mind, Ted, as you do, Ted Ryan from Ford, because I
Yeah.
wanted to ask about that. You said a lot of these were sold off. Typically, concepts, unfortunately, usually end up being crushed, but
they
it's
do. Yep.
great
Well,
they
that
still
they
exist.
used to be crushed. Fred, let's use that in the past tense. I've changed the rules now.
Good, I
Uh,
like that. I'm liking that, Ted.
Yeah.
every concept is now
Concepts are
kept.
beautiful.
Every concept is kept for a minimum of 5 years while a determination is made on the viability of that concept for long term storage. Because remember, guys, concepts are typically made out of plastic and bubble gum
Yeah.
uh, because they're not drivers, except for the most famous concept, which was the Futura, which turned into the Batmobile, and it was a
Yes.
driver. Uh,
Right. Right.
but so every concept is now Oh, this is a beautiful one, the Airstream. Every
Airstream. Yeah.
concept is maintained for 5 years until
Man.
we do a viability study on it.
Wow. And but these were sold off to individuals or
2003 for Ford's 100th anniversary, we did a big auction with Christie's, and in fact, Google that auction catalog. It's a pretty pricey auction catalog alone, and the money went to charity. So most of the concepts that I have are post 2003. We had about 55 to choose from, and like this one, I kept this one. This is a concept of a Transit Connect, but it was a taxi cab, and it was one of the first of the taxi cabs that was used.
yeah.
Uh, that Lincoln is a sweet one with the beautiful suicide doors.
Yeah.
It screams back
That's
Lincoln there.
really that's cool.
Yeah. Very, very
I
cool
want
stuff.
that.
Yeah, and
Well,
I
so
guess
do
there
other people. The concept had a way prior to this project. Oh, this is the MA. That's a cool concept. It was basically you were shipped a box that had the car and you assembled it yourself.
I like it.
Uh, it is. It's beautiful. But so the concept had a way of disappearing anyway, and when they weren't being sold off. So now we've got a tracking mechanism in place, and we're gonna keep the ones that have a viable future. Some of them just won't last, and there's no point in putting money into something that just can't last. But we can take 3D scans of it, and we can take photographs of it.
Yeah. And I like the idea. I guess it's sold as not as a car because, as you say, some of these don't have. They're just
Engines.
pushers and yeah, engines, or they're just there for display. But hey, if the money can go to charity, and then they're still available for when you want to do something like this, I mean that's great. I tell you, one thing that caught my eye, I love the Lightning Bolt Ranger. I thought that had a
Yes.
great stance. When I saw that, I was like, well, that looks really cool. And then,
The
of course,
Lightning
all
Bolt
the
is a
muscle.
driver too, and we've already had requests from employees to drive it. That's our test case on what can be driven and what can't be driven.
Yeah. And then just all the great F bodies. You're going to laugh, Ted.
Yeah.
I was looking at this preparing for the show last night, and I had F body Mustangs in my dreams, and I was driving one with a manual transmission. Isn't
There
that
you go.
funny? So
Yep.
yeah, it was funny. It's like, why am I?
What
It's like,
was
oh,
it?
I know why I'm dreaming about this. I looked at them for like 2 hours.
Yeah, was it a
Lots of
Turbo
audios in this.
4?
No, no,
I'm sorry.
it was a
Okay.
V8. I could hear it. It was a V8, and I remember going around curves and it was shifting and stuff. It's really funny how this stuff gets into you, right, Ted?
It is. Well, and for me, the project was secret for a year. When I've talked to you guys, I think 3 times over the last year, and I couldn't tell you about it because we were keeping it under wraps until everything was ready. Uh, but it's been a labor of love, and it's not just been my love; it's been the employees. It's been the people who had been protecting the cars, and the people who had known what was coming, and worked with us to identify the vehicles and move it from storage area to storage area, and then clean them all up. So, a year in the making, and tremendously received by our employees. The pent up demand for Ford, the passion for the Ford vehicles. Oh, my favorite story.
I
Do I have time to
remember
tell
this
it?
one.
Oh,
The Empire State Building Mustang.
Yes, I was
yeah,
there. I
yeah.
saw it, and it was
You saw
really
it so
neat.
well. The 30-second version is for the introduction of the Mustang in '64 and '65. We cut up a Generation One and put it on the 86th floor observation deck of the Empire State Building. So for the 50th anniversary, we decided to do the same thing again. But the problem is, and that photo is deceptive, the elevator only opens up 36 inches. So
Oh
we
man.
actually built a fake elevator and cut the 2015 GT into 6 different pieces and removed the windshield and the tires. And we had 6 hours to reconstruct it at the top of the Empire State Building, which we did. So that car, this is another point of passion. Some of you guys may know Saeed Deep in our communications team. He tucked it away in a warehouse because he thought it was too important a piece to just discard.
Yeah.
So it's been sitting in a warehouse in the middle of Clinton,
Yeah.
again, for the past decade. And I went out and I found it and a couple of other cool showpieces, and pulled them into the fleet.
That's really neat. I remember going to see it. I was telling Les this story, and being a New Yorker, you never do the things that people do when they come to see New York as a tourist. And I was standing online to go up, take the elevator up the Empire State Building, and this guy that works there walks up and goes, "Hey, where are you from?" And I said, "Well, about 20 miles that way."
Yep.
I was like, I'm coming here to see the car, see how they did it. So
It
great.
was on
Yeah.
display in the garage. We still have it it's still cut apart, and we still have it in pieces, and I kept the elevator, the fake elevator as well. And I have that on display next to it right now.
You are a true archivist, Ted.
Yeah, but
That is
this,
amazing.
the employees there, the thousands of employees, they really must love this, knowing that it's happening because, you're as an employee, you are part of whatever you do for Ford. You are part of these vehicles being built and sold and owned by millions of owners.
Yeah.
And you see the results of your work, whether you're cleaning floors or keeping the accounting books. Uh, you're part of it.
You are, and our next big activation, we've got the tours that are set up for specific teams, and those are in a controlled environment. But April 24th at Coke is Bring Your Kid to Work Day, and
Hmm.
have been calling for employees to volunteer to become docents, and we expect thousands and thousands of employees to be able to see these vehicles on display in the garage. The 10 millionth Mustang, I was there at that photo shoot at the Edsel and Illinois Ford home, and at the previous shoot where we had VIN number one next to VIN 10 million.
Hmm.
Uh, so the VIN number one is in the
That's
collection of the Henry Ford. And I've got to stress that the Henry Ford is a valued partner, and we continue to offer to donate vehicles to them as appropriate. Uh, and they take the ones that they feel are appropriate to their collection. But for example, the Biden Lightning, they didn't want to take that one. So I knew that it was important and shouldn't go away. So that's how it got added to our fleet instead of their fleet. So we'll continue to partner with the Peterson and with the Henry Ford and with the Gilmore and with all the other automobile museums. We'll continue to loan to them. And actually, they'll have a bigger fleet of vehicles to pull from, to borrow from us now that we have these under wraps.
And as an archivist, it must be great. Like on the Biden Lightning, you even have footage of his, him getting
Yeah,
in it and
yeah,
what he says afterwards. I mean,
we
you
have
can't ask
everything.
for a better Provence than that. I mean, there it is. I mean, it's neat stuff, Ted. Neat stuff. What are some of your other favorite stories in this whole project, across this project, or finds? I mean, the V10, I remember the V10 Mustang because I love that about manufacturers. It's true hot rodders. Like, what if we stuffed a V10
Yeah.
in a Mustang? Like, I don't know.
I
Let's try
that's
it. Get your
just
torch.
yeah.
Yeah.
What's the VIN number 1, 2, and 3 of the 2005 GT program were the red, white, and blue ones that were
Mm-hmm.
at the Detroit Auto Show. You may have seen them out there. Those sat in the executive garage for the past decade, and they were covered with dirt, flat tires. So getting those out, getting them cleaned up. VIN number 1 actually had raccoon prints on it because a raccoon had started to make a nest in it.
Oh boy.
Uh,
Yeah.
so protecting those, and then the Belmar, New Jersey volunteer
Ambulance.
safety squad. Yeah, that ambulance is just spectacular because when they disbanded, they donated it to us. That was another one. I offered it to the Henry Ford, who said, "No, we've got an ambulance." But this was an ambulance with a story. So in my mind, it was the perfect Ford Pro story because we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of Ford and police vehicles and Ford and emergency vehicles. So what better way to tell that than with an ambulance that was purchased by a small community in New Jersey to
Mm-hmm.
protect its citizens? And it still has the medical equipment in it,
Wow.
the splints, the defibrillator, the 1938 stretcher, and it's a great story about a community.
Yeah. That's true. They tell stories, and man, to have it that complete, Les, is pretty cool. Um, but what I mean, going forward, Ted, you've set things up that you mentioned concepts will kind of be tracked, and you'll think about them as where they could go. I mean, I want to thank you for doing this because a lot of this stuff is just lost to history if it wasn't for people squirreling it away or playing the
Thank
shell
Jim
game,
Farley,
moving it around.
guys.
That's right.
Thank Jim Farley, and it was over Christmas break of 23. And it's not every day that you get an email from your CEO, but I got an
Yeah.
email. I mean, that email from him said, "Fix this. It's broken. Go fix it." And I had his authority to go fix it, and I had a willing audience. The minute I started calling and saying, "Okay, this is a project. I'm working on it. We've got backing." People came out of the woodwork going, "Oh, I've got this one. I've got this one. We need this one." And believe me, I was just the face of the project, but there were hundreds of people that worked on this, and can't tell you how excited they were to see it come to life. And as was Jim. Jim got a note from him the other night going, "This is fantastic work. Keep it going." And we
Oh
are going to
wow.
keep it going. We're now
Well,
set up a quarterly review process of the vehicles being produced and what should be kept, and how to keep it and how to tag it so that the accountants don't come chasing you down wanting to
yeah.
sell it. We
Yeah.
got a process in place.
Yeah. As automotive journalists, we always used to hate that when you would get a great press vehicle and you would say vehicle not for sale, and you would know what that probably
Yeah.
means. Eventually, it's going to be parted out,
Yep.
or crushed, and it's sad because it's like, well, there's a lot of good things on this, and I was always told you can't even take. If it's a Mustang, you can't even take the engine and put it in something else. It's got to go completely be destroyed, which was always sad to me.
Well, some of that still holds true. Some of it is for safety reasons, like that V10 Mustang. That can only be driven under very specific
Yeah,
circumstances because it's a tester and et cetera. Some of the cars in the media fleet are just media fleet. It's just another.
it'll be
Um,
sold at auction.
it's going to be sold, made
Yeah.
ready to buy and sold at auction. So
Yeah.
some of them we're just plucking them before they're sold. Uh, and we're going to be so deliberate. Uh, how many Broncos do you need? Two, maybe.
That's true. Yeah.
So and I don't want to spend money to keep things that don't have a valuable purpose and that 15 years from now won't be offering value back to the business. So
Right.
you've got to look at it both ways. So the ones that we saved, we're excited, and we're excited to save more moving forward, and to make it a holistic worldwide fleet is the other big thing, is to get everything appraised, get everything listed, get everything photographed, and do that moving forward.
Yeah. Well, thanks for saving the Focus
Yeah,
RS.
this is
We
just
just
so
did the
cool.
story of that going away, and we were, in the international market, and that was a
Yeah,
great
guys,
vehicle.
go Google, and you'll it's a time set. Go Google Ford Heritage Fleet in Daventry, England, and there's been a couple of stories on it. And I think Top Gear got into their storage area last year. They've got an amazing fleet of about 150 cars that will just blow you away.
Yeah, great stuff.
That's by the way, if we come up there, can we drive the 1913 Model T?
That one's on a driver, but I'll hook you on that. I'll hook you up with the Henry Ford, and we'll get you in a Model T that you can drive around the Henry Ford property. Or even better, guys, I'll take you to Paquette, the Paquette plant where I'm on the board, and we've got a driving program now with some of the T's as well. So we'll give you a lesson and teach you how to drive a T.
Yeah,
It's
it takes. Yeah, I don't. I try. I drove one once, and it is
I'm horrible
not.
at it.
It's not intuitive.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
it's
I'll
not
say
what
that.
we're used to in the last
No.
century.
Well,
Yeah, it's a little bit
your
different.
gas is on the steering wheel, so it's completely
Oh
different.
yeah, yeah,
And your
yeah.
spark
Everything.
duration's
It's
on the
three
steering wheel as
pedals.
well, right?
Yeah.
I believe so. And yeah, there's multiple pedals that don't really seem to.
That's
It's not.
right.
Yeah, it's not.
They don't correspond to what today's pedals do.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think somewhere like 200 years from now, someone will be looking at a 2025 Mustang and say, "This makes no sense. How do you drive it?" They,
I do. I mean, because yes, 100 years from now, we'll be looking at cars completely differently.
yeah,
But that's why historians are historians. We keep, and that's why the selection process, we call it appraisal in our world. It's appraisal, which doesn't mean monetary value. It means, should I keep this for future, and will it tell future generation stories? So our appraisal process was pretty strict on this project.
right, right. Very interesting. Well, thanks, Ted, for a
Yeah,
look into your world, and you're a true car guy and saving this stuff, and it's really important work. I think archivists do a
it
big,
is.
big, important, and it's kind of fun to uncover the things. I think, and just to put it in perspective. So we always
They're
like
still
having you.
rolling in, guys. I'm still getting emails going, "Oh, I found this. Do you want it?" And so, uh,
Well, I think
That's
if
terrific.
someone cares about it and they've got it stashed away and they don't want to end up passing away down the line, and then it just ends up and somebody comes and just pulls it away and scraps it. It's better. I
yeah,
would feel
100%. I've got
better.
to do a survey of our plants too, because Dearborn had a couple of vehicles hidden away. Well, what's at Kansas City? What's at Louisville? So
I
what's hidden away in
Yeah,
Chicago? So
I
that
I,
process is going to happen later this year.
I remember
they're
reading.
there.
Yes, if they're there. I remember reading an article in Hot Rod Magazine. A California Ford dealer closed up, and they went in there, and he had new old stock fenders in Ford boxes for 40 Fords and
Oh
all
wow,
kinds of parts like that. And the hot rodders like bought them all because wow, to have like a brand new fender in a box from Ford
yeah,
for your vehicle, pretty cool stuff. So it's still there, and we're still finding stuff in barns, which is crazy. But
Yep.
even with all the every 10,000 YouTube channels and that, it's still being found. So it's all good.
perfect.
Ted, we always appreciate you being here on Cruise Control. We thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to the next adventure.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right. Take
Yes.
care.
Thank you, Ted. Great
Okay,
work.
All right.
thanks. Got to run. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Well, we appreciate you listening to Cruise Control. Don't forget to check us out on social media and all our other platforms. It's time for me to say I'm Fred Staab.
I'm Les Jackson.
We are going to see you down the road.